Hi, today we'll be discussing about the recent developments in food science. So, food science and technology has developed as a discipline to systematically organize and link various kinds of knowledge which are necessary to inform human activity in handling, processing, distribution, and marketing of food. So, we have discussed about the different areas of food science like food preservation, food preparation. There are so many, things coming in food science like the elements of engineering, then physics, mechanics, etc. are all coming in food science. So let's discuss about the recent developments in food science. Based on it is because of the different changes that happen in the food consumption pattern. See, you can see that there has been an increasing trend towards consumerism. Like more and more people want to go out and eat. They are eating more of processed foods, convenience foods, health foods, functional foods, foods of different varieties from from different origins. We are eating, we are getting Italian foods, American foods. All these things are available now compared to 10 years back. If you see the food pattern or trends, it's you can see there is a huge difference in how people used to eat earlier compared to what is being eaten now. Consumerism is an urban trend that is reflected in more people eating away from home. Because of that, there is a lot of changes in the food habits. Earlier there was only just if in the Kerala situation, what we used to eat is just rice and curries were the traditional type of food, and we had very limited menu. But now a lot of other foods have also come from different cultures, and it has been part of our life. It has come to our, it has mingled so much into our lives that we can see a lot of restaurants, food areas, serving all types of foods like Arabic cuisine, Italian, French. So many things are being available to us now. So the main reason, one of the biggest reason, is rapid income growth and globalization. Such things have increased the uh, uh, these trends, and the traditional food consumption patterns are giving way to Western dishes and diet like fast foods, junk foods. All these are very much in common. Next, so let's see different. Other than this, there are different types of foods that have come to the forefront. One of them is GM foods, or genetically modified foods. Now, these are foodstuffs produced from genetically modified organisms or microorganisms whose genome has been altered through genetic engineering. So, GM food is something that is new, or it has not been there 100 years back. So something which is recently added to the food culture. So what is genetic modification? Now, genetic modification is a special set of technology that you are altering the genetic makeup of the living organisms like animals, plants, bacteria. So it can create plants with whatever we desire, like the desired trait, with very rapidly and with great accuracy. If you want a plant to be short and produce lot of fruits, you can do that with the help of genetic engineering. Sometimes what happens is nowadays, if you see the trees and all, the fruits will be high up, and it is very difficult to pluck the fruit. So what we do is, through genetic engineering, we can do like hybrid varieties are available where the trees are really short, and it is, we can easily just lift our hands, and you can reach the fruits, and we can pluck it ourselves. So it is very convenient. Otherwise, if you can see, coconut plucking and all, it's a big problem in our our times, because the height is so, it is, the tree is so tall that nobody can reach it, and you have to pay a lot of money to these people who are coming, who might not be available also. So such, a lot of other problems are also there, like some foods will be seasonal in nature. You can through genetic modification, you can make the crop available throughout the year. So many other desired traits can be incorporated into these plants by genetic modification. So you can give genes from different plants, or different, even non plants can also be used, and you are altering the genetic makeup of the plant. Now, one of the examples of GM foods is One of the best known example is using soil bacteria called as Bacillus thuringiensis in improving variety of crops like corn, cotton, soybean, tomato. So what happens is, when you are using this Bacillus thuringiensis in the plant, you're incorporating that into the plants, into the part of the plant. What happens is that the it becomes insect resistant. That is the biggest. So you can see this picture over here, wherein it is shown that where a BT eggplant, or a brinjal, we say it in common terms, eggplant, where it is treated with a genetically modified eggplant, is not attacked by insects compared to a non-BT normal eggplant. So such things, you are giving them insect resistance. So that is a example of a genetically modified food. Then you can also increase the iron content, nutritional profile of these foods by genetically modifying them. Then you are you can even produce human vaccines for diseases such as hepatitis. So you can just eat the vaccine. So it is so convenient, right? Then genetic modification is being done on fishes, so that they are they mature more quickly, they produce more eggs, like that. So a lot of things, whatever we wish to modify, we can do it. But of course, it is you should not ever misuse it, or there are a lot of problems associated with that as well. Now what is being done is, it is called as recombinant DNA technology. That is process of combining genes from different organisms. That is called as a recombinant DNA technology. So you can see this. First of all, you are having a plasmid. Okay, a plasmid is there. There is, you are taking the genetic material. Okay, from there, and you are taking the gene, and you are actually cutting. Okay, the part of a there is a site where the enzymes are cutting the DNA, and you're inserting another DNA containing the gene of interest. So whatever trait you want to incorporate, that DNA is being inserted into the other DNA. Okay, so by cutting with the help of enzymes, and thus you are actually, and after that there is the insert there, so the new gene will be there in the other, after the DNA is being recombined. So that is called as recombinant DNA technology. From a DNA, you are cutting it, and from another uh, DNA, you are inserting the gene of interest. Okay, and which will have the trait of interest, whatever trait you want. For example, you want to have a insect resistant plant, so such genes will be inserted into this DNA, so that will have that particular trait. So DNA from one organism is taken, modified in a laboratory, and then inserted into the target organism's genome to produce the new and useful traits. That is how simple it is. I mean, it is not, of course, a simple process. We can see it is a very simple process, but of course, it takes a lot of effort, and a lot of care should be done in the laboratory conditions. Now, genetic modification, just like okay, so what are the benefits of GM foods? Of course, as the population is growing fast, you know that to ensure adequate food supply is a big challenge, right? So GM foods means we can increase, foods are grown in the laboratory, means it's so easy, right? Compared to you need as the population is growing, we know that the place for agriculture is decreasing. As the population increases, more and more people want to build houses, industries, etc., and there is very little place for agriculture. Lands are decreasing. So if you are able to produce very good quality plants with pest resistance, herbicide tolerance, disease resistance, etc., then naturally these GM foods will be of great benefit to the society. But there are certain risks also, because as we said, you are actually altering the natural genetic makeup of those foods. So there is a human intervention coming up. So there are a lot of concerns, like religious organizations, because people will say that people might argue that you are actually changing God's innate something which is something of its natural origin. You're actually changing it. Then environmental activists, because these foods can sometimes be dangerous in long term, like allergic, so you might be allergic to it. You don't know the long term effects of it, because once if you're eating these foods, sometimes maybe it might have certain health risks. We don't know unless and until there is a studies carried out in a long term, then only we'll be able to no make out. And there are cases of many children in the US, Europe have developed allergies to peanuts and other foods because of these introducing certain risky genes which some people might be allergic to. Then there might be some unknown effects to human health also, which we don't know, because there are all foreign things that you are inserting into these plants, right? Then there is another problem, that is if you are actually genetically modifying them to have increased resistance to antibiotics. What happens is, if these plants, genetically modified plants that we eat are they are antibiotic resistant, then what happens is, if we eat those plants, for example, you're eating a tomato which is antibiotic resistant. So which is, sorry, antibiotic, it has been treated with some antibiotics. So what happens is, we are eating these tomatoes on a daily basis. What happens is that we will develop something called as antibiotic resistance. That is like when you get a fever or something, you have to take greater, higher dose of antibiotics, so that this or fever or any other problem goes away, because the food that we eat already has some antibiotics. So our body will be accustomed to having accustomed to taking these many amounts of antibiotics. It's already there, so our body has become resistant to antibiotics, so we have to take a higher dose. So that is a problem with antibiotic resistance. Then there are some unintended harm to other organisms. For example, like in bt, bacillus thuringiensis, that is a insecticide, or something that repels insects, right? So what happens is that when any insect, like even butterflies, when butterflies come and sit in this plants, or it will kill them also. So naturally lot of insects will be lost, so such things will be damaging to these harmless insects also. So there is environmentally problems, then there is a change in the flora, fauna, biodiversity, because you are altering something that is away from this natural way. Then there is a sometimes what happens is, if all these genetically modified plants are extremely is resistant to pesticides and all, what happens is that all the pesticides will lose its resistance. That is, these what happens is, now we can see that if you place like DDT powder on ants, they are not dying like earlier. It's because of the fact that these ants have some sort of a resistance towards all these pesticides, etc., because of the eating all these genetically modified other things, because we are so used to something like chemicals in our system, that these animals or these pests have become resistant to pesticides, insecticides, etc. So that is a problem. Then there is there is a chance of gene transfer to non-target species also. Like when you are when you are making a insecticide repellent plant, what happens is, certain times what happens is, some weeds are like unwanted plants are also there, right? So by pollination and other means, it can also crossbreed with these plants, and these weeds also might grow to become very herbicide resistant, or resistant to insects, and also these weeds will also become super weeds. So that is why there is a chance of gene transfer to non-target species like weeds are the unwanted plants, so the unwanted plants will also grow to be resistant to herbicides, etc. So that is what is the risks of GM. Now how do you there's supposed to be some regulations. You can't just alter genetic makeup just like that, because it is something that is a human intervention, and naturally there has to be some regulatory bodies. So the thing is, India has not yet announced a policy on GM foods, because GM foods are not widely or large scale produced in our and it is not very extremely popular in India. And it is now India is very supportive of transgenic research also, but in the other countries like Japan, they have made the health testing of GM foods mandatory. And also some states have in Brazil have actually banned GM crops entirely. So even in US, Europe and all, it is you if you're you if there is a GM product in your packaging, if you're a processed food, then there is a mandatory labeling of GM foods. That is, the label should be there, like there is contains genetically modified food is there. So that is, it should appear in the list of ingredients. So this is a rule of Europe, US, etc. So, in January 2000, an international trade agreement for labeling GM foods was established. And because of that, more than 130 countries, including the US, signed the agreement. And it states that all the exporters must be required to label all GM foods, and that importing countries have the right to judge for themselves the potential risks and reject GM foods if they want. So US especially, they'll have to, they have to mention if the food has, if whatever it is, contains any GM foods or not. Now let's moving on to the next trend, that is organic foods. Now organic foods is something different from genetically modified. This organic means something that is grown by organic farming, which is an agriculture which does not use any synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, plant regulators or anything of that sort. It is something which is very natural. Okay, as far as population possible, organic farmers rely on crop rotation, crop residues, animal manures, mechanical cultivation, etc. Where very natural things are only used. No use of chemicals, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides are not used. Then they are also processed without any radiations or food additives, etc. So there are, chemicals are used in the least amount. That is what is organic farming. Even the animals like organically grown chicken, beef, etc. does not use, they are not given antibiotics, growth hormones, etc. So these are also termed as, or you can say that animal grown is organic if they are not being fed with any antibiotics or hormones or any other chemical feeds. They are only given natural feeds. So what are the advantages? Of course, a lot of advantages are there. It is less damaging to the environment, obviously, because you're not using much chemicals. Then they are not, it is good for the environment. It is also good for the ecosystem at large, because you can sustain all the plants, animals. It uses less energy. It produces less waste. It is good for our water bodies, rivers, etc. Because naturally, when you are using chemical fertilizers and chemical pesticides in your farms, what happens is all these will leach out into your rivers and lakes, etc., right? So when you're using organic fertilizers or manures, what happens is it is better for the rivers, etc. Even the soil will also be of good quality. There is better yield even in drought conditions, because there is more water in the soil, because the water will be highly retained, because less water loss is there when you are organically managing the soil. So that is what is, it is good for the environment, good for our health also. And of course, naturally, pesticides, chemicals are all bad for our health. It can cause a lot of toxicity in our bodies. It can even cause problems like in the long term use can even lead to cancer and other diseases. Then sometimes when it is acute health problems like abdominal pain, dizziness, such problems are also there. Any other, after like repeated like repeated exposure to such chemicals will lead to memory disorders, skin problems, cancer, depression, neurological problems, miscarriages, like pregnancy can be aborted, birth defects. Such things can be a problem with chemical and fertilizers, pesticides, etc. So that is why organic foods are very trending now. Now, so they can see that benefits of organic food is it's good for your immune system. It tastes better. It is healthy, safe, prevents premature aging. Then risk of heart diseases are reduced. It is good for animals. It reduces presence of pesticides, prevents cancer. So all these are the good points of organic foods. Now, even organic foods have certain concerns, and one of the main concern is cost. Because naturally, if you are using a lot of pesticides and chemical fertilizers, your yield will be high, and you can get a better yield, means better more money. So naturally, you get it is, you can keep it at a you can sell it at a competitive price. But in the case of organic foods, you're using only natural things. You're not using chemicals, so naturally the yield will be lesser compared to the when you're using chemicals. So you can't sell it for a very cheap price. So organic products typically cost 10 to 40% more than conventionally produced products. This is because they have to meet, stricter quality standards. Then more labor is required. Yeah, you need more. People should go and monitor if there are pests, etc. There is a labor cost is more. Because you are using more of labor intensive methods. So that is why organic pesticides there are a lot of organic pesticides, etc., but they are also kind of comparatively less common compared to the chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So there is even organic foods are also under a lot of regulations. In international framework for organic farming is provided by the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movement. It is called as IFOAM or IFOAM. So there are the standards from it is different from country to country. So in India, guidelines and standards for organic agriculture was announced in 2001, and there is a program national, that is in the national level, National Program on Organic Production, NPOP, which was administered under the Ministry of Commerce. So in that, there is a certificate which is given, like India Organic Certificate is provided. So under that, all those to get the certification, you must fulfill a lot of criteria. Then only you will get the criteria that that logo and that certificate will be given. So the use of logo is regulated through, there will be inspection, certification agencies will come and check your farm and everything. Then only you will be provided with these certifications. Those agencies accredited by Agricultural and Processed Food Products Development Authority, APEDA. That is a authority who is giving this certification. They are only authorized to use the India Organic logo. So this is, it is regulated under the Organic Product Certification Mark Regulation, which was in 2002. The use of this license is regulated under the Organic Product Certification Mark Regulation, which was in 2002. Please remember these years and the names of these, authority who is giving the certification, because, it can be asked. Because that is how organic foods are regulated in our country. Now coming to the next one, that is functional foods. Functional foods are ingredients that offer health benefits that extend beyond their nutritional value. So we know that food gives us energy. Food is good for bodybuilding, protective functions. All these things are there. Now functional foods means it is something other than nutritional value. Any other benefit, that is called as functional food. No, so this is like the concept of functional foods originated in Japan in the 1980s. So it's something new, right? That is when the government agencies started approving foods with proven benefits to better the health of the general population. For example, foods which are fortified with vitamins, minerals, probiotics, etc. Then fruits, certain fruits, vegetables, etc. So we can see there is a term called as nutraceutical. Nutraceutical is a combination of nutrition and pharmaceutical, which means that foods which have medicinal effect on human health. The name is coined by Dr. Stephen DeFelice in 1989. Okay, please make note of this. Nutraceutical is a combination of nutrition and pharmaceutical, means foods which have a medicinal effect on human health. Okay, functional food is something a little different from that. Functional food is more general in nature. Nutraceutical can be defined as a food or part of a food that provides medicinal or health benefits, including prevention or treatment of a disease. So they are also can be known as functional foods, designer foods, health foods, special foods. Certain foods like phytochemicals, antioxidants, probiotics are all coming under these terms. So very well, we have seen the certain superfoods like red wine. It is an antioxidant. Then broccoli, it is a cancer preventive agent. Soya bean has heart health benefits. So such things are called, they are nutraceuticals, because they have some medicinal properties. They help prevent disease, reduce the risk of any disease, enhance health. So because of this, consumer interest in these functional foods have grown in the last century, because of a lot of people have become more and more health conscious and nutritional conscious, and if people are wanting to decrease their intake of medicine and go for foods that are healing. So it is something that has become very revolutionary in our science. So there are like a lot of foods are there which have a lot of benefits, like phytochemicals and certain carotenoids, limonoids. We can say that curcumin, which is present in turmeric, has cancer preventing properties. Then soybeans, carrots, tomatoes, oranges, spinach. Then carotenoids, which are vitamin A, which is a predecessor of vitamin A. It contains antioxidants. It can prevent eye diseases. Then limonoids, which is also present in all these, orange peels, etc. That also protects the lung tissues from free radicals. Then phytochemicals are present in yellow vegetables like pumpkin. All those yellow chemicals, it can decrease your cholesterol absorption, decrease tumor in breast, prostate glands, etc. Then lot of berries, like all those your strawberry, mulberry, etc. They have a lot of protective actions against oxidative damage of tissues. So all these are beneficial foods. They are called as functional foods. Now mainly there are two categories of functional foods: foods that naturally contain biologically active non-nutrient components, like phytochemicals, etc. uh, so they are all one type of functional food, and the next one is foods which are specially formulated to have higher amount of nutrients, or they are called as designer foods. For example, if you are genetically engineering more certain properties, or certain resistance to diseases, or even nutrients. For example, vitamin A is induced into the particular food. It is a different type that is called as designer foods. So we have a number of different functional foods, which have specific benefits which you can go through. Like if very common ones are garlic, which has reduces the risk of cancer and heart disease. Nuts, soya, fatty fish, green tea. You must have all heard of all these things, because it is all commonly used now. A lot of people have endorsed these products also. Now let's move on to the next very important topic, that is probiotics. That's also something which is very commonly used now. Probiotics are live microorganisms that can be formulated into many different types of products, including foods, drugs, and dietary supplements. Now, what are probiotics? They are living microorganisms which we are taking in them, and they are good microorganisms. Yesterday we had discussed about the food preservation. That is, why do we have to preserve foods? Because to prevent microorganisms. But here we are talking about good microorganisms. Species of lactobacillus, bifidobacterium are most commonly used as probiotics. Even yeast like Saccharomyces cerevisiae, E. coli, Bacillus species are also used as probiotics. So here, these probiotics are the good microorganisms, or the good bacteria which lives in our body. So lactic acid bacteria, they have been used for preservation of food by fermentation, can serve a dual function by acting as agent for fermentation. It imparts a lot of health benefits. So you are using fermentation of foods will provide a lot of taste, etc. Now in our body it has a lot of benefits, like improving the gut health, or your intestinal health is improved. There is a lower risk of colon cancer. All these things are improved by the use of probiotics. What are different other lot of benefits of probiotics are seen. That is only the good bacteria. We are talking about only the good bacteria. Like it can manage digestive disorders such as diarrhea. For example, like my my son recently had diarrheal infection, so the doctor had prescribed a bacterial lactobacillus, for the for curing the diarrhea. So you see, you're using bacteria to to actually combat this problem of diarrhea or other associated diseases, because it is a good bacteria which will fight against the bad bacteria. Okay, so a lot of it is good for, you know, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease, etc. Then dermatitis or eczema, allergy, tooth decay, hepatic disease, common cold, all these things are can be treated using these probiotics. Probiotic rich foods or fermented foods are very good actually for treating these kind of or even, you know, for disease prevention also. Now let's, another term is prebiotics. Now prebiotic means something which is happening. Pre means something before, right? So prebiotics are dietary substances that nurture a selected group of microorganisms living in the gut. So they favor the growth of beneficial bacteria over that of harmful ones. Unlike probiotics, most prebiotics are used as food ingredients like biscuits, cereals, chocolates, etc. has these prebiotics. For example, inulin, lactulose, breast milk also contains prebiotics, galacto-oligosaccharides, oligofructose. These are prebiotics. These prebiotics help in the production of probiotics. Pre means something before probiotics. So prebiotics help in the production of probiotics. That's all. Food for prebiotics. Food for probiotics. That is the, for example, the foods which contain a lot of prebiotics are asparagus, garlic, banana, wheat bran flour, all those things containing lot of fiber, for a lot of soluble fiber. All those things contain prebiotics. Now, what are the examples of probiotics? Our yogurt or curd, milk, kefir, sour cream, all these are good bacteria, which contains a lot of good bacteria. Prebiotic foods, like a lot of all the fibrous foods like, flaxseed, banana, legumes, pulses, berries, tomatoes, artichokes, all these contain a lot of prebiotics. What are the functions of prebiotics? Fermentation of oligofructose in the colon results in a large number of physiological effects, including increasing the number of bifidobacteria. That is the main function of prebiotic. That is, increase the number of good bacteria like bifidobacteria. Increases calcium absorption, increases fecal weight. It adds bulk to the feces. That is an important function of prebiotic. That is for the same function of dietary fiber. Then shortening gastrointestinal transit time. Now, what do you mean by gastrointestinal transit time? That is like when you are eating foods, what happens is sometimes it takes a long time to go to the for fecal matter. Like constipation is a big problem for a lot of people. So that is because the transit time is very high. So what happens is, if you eat a lot of dietary fiber rich foods or prebiotic rich foods, it increases the it decreases the gastrointestinal transit time, and you will not be getting any problem of constipation. So the fecal transit time is less. Then there is a very important function, that is lowering blood lipid levels or cholesterol levels. That's a very, very, very helpful function of prebiotics. So increase in colonic bifidobacteria has been assumed to benefit human health by producing compounds to inhibit pathogens also, reducing blood ammonia levels, producing vitamins, digestive enzymes. So there are a lot of functions for prebiotics. So let's discuss about the differences between pro and prebiotics, because these terms can be confusing to a lot of people. Just remember this: probiotics are live microorganisms, but prebiotics, they are non-living. They are mostly non-digestible by human ingredients, like they are dietary fiber. So prebiotics are food for probiotics. So which are the common probiotics? Bacteria or yeast. Prebiotic will serve as food for these bacteria. So these are the main differences between, prebiotics will aid in digestion, etc. And it will also serve a lot of functions. Now, there is another term called a symbiotic. Symbiotic means it is the combination of prebiotic and probiotic. Now, they exert functions of both prebiotic and probiotic. For example, if you are adding fruits to yogurts, okay, if you're adding fruits to yogurts, that will be a symbiotic combination, because yogurt is already a probiotic substance, and you're adding a fruit which is rich in it is rich in prebiotics. That is a fiber rich food. Then, or you're using bananas, banana yogurts, etc., that will be a symbiotic product. So this is why fruit yogurts are all can be called as a symbiotic products. Okay, so another recent concepts in food science, there are other concepts also, like people are finding don't want to spend much time in the kitchen, and there is more higher standard of living, urge for eating outside home for such things. Because of that, there are a lot of there is more demand for processed foods, packaged foods. There are special foods for infants, growing children, convalescents, old people, astronauts, defense forces. So everything is like designed, that we have seen about the Pediasure, Nan Pro. So a lot of things are there, like specialty foods are there. So these are all new things which was not available 50 years back or 60 years back. So these are then convenience foods are there, like 3-minute breakfast. You just have to add water, just put it in the microwave. Everything is very so easy. Frozen foods, see, these are very easy to prepare, less time consuming, available throughout the year. You don't have to complicate things with, within a very less period of time you can prepare all these dishes. So it's very helpful for working mothers, etc. Then space foods are there, which are extremely which are designed by high qualified food technologists for astronauts. What do you mean? So naturally, if you're taking something for space, it should be less bulky. The nutrients should be not too space consuming, should be stable at all the type of temperature. It should be very well packed. All these are managed by the space food committee. There are different research lab, or like the defense laboratories are there, which are specifically for space foods. Then biotechnology can be added, incorporated into foods for increasing their nutritional value. Anti-nutritional constituents can be removed. So such things can, biotechnology is applied to foods. The next is nanotechnology. Now, nanotechnology means foods at a very small, substances which are between 1 and 100 nanometer in size. 1 nanometer is equal to 10 raised to minus 9 meters. So it's a very small quantity. So those, found very small size particles are nano particles. So nanotechnology means you're incorporating these nanomaterials into the foods for different types of you can use different materials. Low level materials can be used. For example, it can be applied for food safety, like because these nanomaterials are antimicrobial, it can be used for it can be directly added to foods because of their antimicrobial properties. Then food ingredients for color, texture, flavor. So certain nanoparticles like titanium oxide, silicon dioxide, are used as food additives for coloring. So they are very minute particle and can be used in coloring donuts, like food powdered sugar coating, etc. So this is why nanoscale ingredients are useful for improving the color, texture, and flavor. Then for food production packaging, so nanomaterials can be used for using to improve like to detect microbial contamination and also potentially enhance the bioavailability of nutrients. So these are the different applications of nanotechnology. Then another very important application is nutrients, increasing the nutritive value of the foods. That is your actually used as nanomaterials are used. For example, you can increase the if you want to use improve the quality of nutrients in your oil, you can add nanoparticles of vitamin A. Any antimicrobial antioxidants can be incorporated. So such things are can be incorporated using nanomaterials. So there is a risk, because human exposure to these nanomaterials will continue to increase. So there is a health impact of all this. It is of public concern. Just like the GM foods or genetically modified foods, nanomaterials are also coming to be a very trending substance. So a lot of it is needed that it is critical to ensure safety of these nanoparticles, because certain good, for everything which is good, there are certain problems also, right? So there should be some regulatory framework for nanotechnology that should, have some controls over these things which are being applied to our foods. So these are the different trends in food science and technology.